Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land. Though tribes and tongues may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Nigerians all are proud to serve our sovereign motherland.
Our flag shall be a symbol that truth and justice reign. In peace or battle honored, and this we count as gain. To hand unto our children a banner without stain.
O God of all creation, grant this our one request. Help us to build a nation where no man is oppressed, and so with peace and plenty, Nigeria may be blessed.
Nigeria, we hail thee. 65 years on, a nation born in struggle, still marching through storms and sunshine alike. On this Wednesday, October 1st, 2025, we do not merely mark the passing of years, we confront the reality of our democracy tested, our economy strained, and our people resilient against all odds. From the echoes of independence in 1960, through coups, transitions, and contested ballots, to the promise and pain of today, Nigeria at 65 stands at a crossroads. On Viewpoint, where we discover perspectives and embrace dialogue, we ask a few questions. What lessons from our past can guide us into the future? What vision do we hold for our generations unborn? And who will take responsibility for steering this giant ship in its onward destiny? This is not just an anniversary, it's a reckoning. Join us shortly. Nigeria, we hail thee. Those words, the very first line of our national anthem, are more than just ceremonial. They're a cry of pride, but also a call to accountability. Today, October 1st, 2025, our dear nation turned 65. 65 years of independence, 65 years since we hoisted our own flag, declared our destiny, and stood before the world as Africa's most populous black nation. And yet, as we gather in this symbolic moment, we are forced to ask, have we truly fulfilled the promise of 1960, or have we become prisoners of our own contradictions? We began as a federation with a dream: unity in diversity, wealth in resources, and strength in numbers. At independence, Nigeria had higher per capita income than South Korea. In 1965, our GDP was on par with Malaysia. But look around today. South Korea is a G20 powerhouse. Malaysia boasts of an industrial economy, while Nigeria wrestles with a GDP per capita hovering over $2,300. Inflation at 27%, unemployment edging by 31%, and 63% of citizens, according to the National Bureau of Statistics, trapped in multidimensional poverty. This contrast is not just about statistics, it's about lost decades, years stolen by military coups, civil war, economic mismanagement, oil booms which have actually been squandered, and democratic experiments still learning to walk, which is practically in its crawling phase. Let us confront the reality now at 65. It's beginning with inflation. Prices of basic goods have skyrocketed. Cost of items more than the minimum wage. Looking at debt burden, Nigeria spends over 90% of government revenue servicing debt. Imagine earning 100 naira, spending 90 naira on servicing old debts, living on just only 10 naira for health, education, and infrastructure. Now, that's just a number analytically speaking. Then we have the youth bulge, 70% of our population, which is under 30, Yet the same demographic faces underemployment, brain drain, and despair. Not leaving out the economic crisis or the energy crisis also, despite being Africa's largest oil producer, we import refined petroleum products, power supply remains erratic or epileptic, stifling small businesses that make up 80% of employment rather. Not forgetting security, banditry, insurgency, separatist agitation, farmer header clashes, and our national map is dotted with red zones of insecurity. Now, these are not abstract problems. They affect the daily bread of millions. They define whether a child goes to school, whether a commuter can travel, whether a family eats 3 square meals, whether graduates stay in Nigeria or flee abroad, aka Japa. Now, politically speaking, Nigeria stands at a crossroads. Our democracy, barely 25 years uninterrupted, has survived transfers of power but remains fragile. Elections are often marred by voter apathy or violence, turnout below 30% as recorded in 2023. Corruption persists as a hydra-headed monster devouring trust in public institutions. Externally, Nigeria struggles to assert its leadership in Africa. Once hailed as the giant of Africa, today we are often slumbering or called the sleeping giant. South Africa dominates an industrial production. Kenya leads with tech innovation. Rwanda in governance branding. Ghana, also on the side in West Africa here, just next door, brags or prides itself in governance stability. And Nigeria, with all its might, seems stuck in the mud of potentials which have been unrealized. But let's be clear, it is not that Nigeria lacks greatness. It is that our politics often refuses to transform greatness into progress. Our oil wealth is a cost because of poor governance, not geology now. Our diversity is a strength turned weakness only because leaders manipulate it from narrow gain. So I ask, Nigeria at 65, are we the prodigal son here who squandered his father's inheritance or inheritance from the father, or are we the phoenix preparing to rise from the ashes? Or are we condemned to recycle despair, or can we chart a new course? These are rhetorical questions because, let us face it, our problems are man-made, which means by reason of logic, they could also be solvable by man. Internally speaking, the cracks are quite many. Federalism without true federalism. For instance, in education, 20 million out of school children, highest in the world. The question is, how do we build a 21st century economy with that foundation? And then there's the healthcare sector. Life expectancy at 54 years compared to 65 in Ghana, 77 in Malaysia. Maternal mortality also not living out among the worst globally speaking. And yet, Nigerians are some of the most resilient people on earth. The same system that fails them is the same space where they create fintech unicorns, Nollywood giants in the film sector that dominate Africa, not leaving out the music sector, Afrobeats music that's actually ruling the world currently. We fail at governance, but Nigerians succeed in ingenuity. Externally again, Nigeria at 65 faces new tests, global energy transitions threatening our oil economy, climate change flooding the Niger Delta and desertifying the north, international creditors tightening loan conditions, geopolitical instability across West Africa with coups in Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, raising questions about our own regional leadership. Now, our voice on the global stage is weakened when our house at home is currently in disorder. But history is not destiny. The story of nations is the story of turning points. South Korea turned around in 30 years. Rwanda re-emerged after genocide. Even Ghana, our West African brother here, after economic collapse in the 1980s, reinvented its democracy. Nigeria, with its population of over 230 million plus, with vast human and natural resources, still carries immense potentials. Now the question is, will we seize it? Will we seize this opportunity? At 65, Nigeria is not finished because at 65, a person may be considered old. But for a nation, Nigeria at 65 is still young. We are still in the turbulent years of adolescence, country-wise, still learning how to govern ourselves, country-wise, still deciding whether to stumble into decline or march into greatness like the US since 1776. The next decade is decisive. Will we fix our electricity? Will we invest in our youth? Will we secure our land and liberate our people from fear? Will our leaders finally rise to the oath they actually swore upon taking office? Or will we, the citizens, push them into what they have to do? I stand here not as a pessimist, but as one of those patriots who sees the cracks, yet also in this crack sees the light shining through that crack. Because Nigerians never give up. We reinvent, we rebuild, and we refuse to back down. We rather are defined by our failures. So let us say it once again. This is time, not just as a line from an anthem, but as a vow, a commitment. Nigeria will heal thee. And with that, may we look beyond despair, hold on to hope, and carry the conviction that the next 65 years can and must be better than the last. Happy Independence Day, Nigeria. This has been a Viewpoint production for Visual Media. I'm Odiawa AI.